All right. I am so excited, so honored to have TShane Johnson here on the Move Happy Movement podcast and vlog. Thanks so much for taking the time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
For those that don't know your background, I mean, you've got an incredible background just from reading your LinkedIn, two-time world record athlete, featured on Forbes, Fox Business, USA Today. You speak, you coach, you teach, you also help people in the mortgage industry. For those that don't know your background, let's go all the way back to the beginning. Where did you start? What's your origin story?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in kind of central Florida. So it's called Arcadia, Florida. I actually grew up in a smaller portion of Arcadia, which is Gardner, Florida, but
Mm-hmm.
that's really small. I don't even think that had a light to it, just had a small post office. But
Mm-hmm.
pretty typical story, I think, for most of us to join the military. Small town, crazy childhood, looking for an opportunity to get out, and Marine Corps was the best one for me. So graduated high school, joined the Marine Corps. In '98, about
Mm-hmm.
3 days after I graduated high school, and then I went in, and I was very fortunate. I graduated honor grad out of boot camp. I was meritoriously promoted 3 times by the time I got to the fleet. Was picture perfect Marine. Went into infantry with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines in 29 Palms, my first duty station, and I spent about a year there. And then after I came back from Okinawa, I went to 1st Recon Battalion. I took the NDOC, went through their RIP program, and then I was with them for about a year. And then my story claim to fame is when I was attempted murder by gang members.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I came off the back of a base at Pendleton. I joined 1st Recon in Camp Margarita, went to Pendleton.
Mm-hmm.
We were training with the operators to go through pre-scuba before we
Mm-hmm.
went to combat dive. And we got a 72, some liberty, some time off, and went off the back of the base on a motorcycle. And then basically a car targeted me and hit me, and I caught the corner of a brick house at 45 miles an hour.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I basically broke every major bone in my upper torso, cut all my major organs, fractured, broke all my ribs, punctured my lungs, 350-cent old pieces in my lungs, broke my shoulder, my hand, collarbone, shoulder blade, and then my left bicep was lacerated. So when I hit the ground, they started to rob me, kick me,
My
beat me,
gosh.
beat me to death. So they thought I was dead. They dipped out, and then I put my right hand on my left bicep, walked 2 blocks to a fire station, and then I was very fortunate. I happened to be a doctor there. They flatlined me out, flatlined out 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
died 3 times, came back,
Wow.
and yeah, and then about 6, 7 months later, I guess I was 3 months. I was in 2 months. I was in critical care. Then I went to ICU,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got back to the basic. I was at a civilian hospital who sent me back to a base. About
Mm-hmm.
3 months after that, I was healed up. I was back with my unit operational training. 9/11 happened, and then we were getting ready to deploy to Hawaii. Our unit was one of the first to start to head over,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was at the dive locker with my gunny at the time, and we were prepping to get ready to head over to Hawaii. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to let you go with us. And he went over and grabbed a box out of the back of the corner, and it had my name on it, and it said dead on it, because when the doctors had called back to my unit, they said that I didn't make it. So he says, you know what? He's like, I don't think it's a good idea for you to take a second chance at that. So I'm going to request that you get out. I was about 3 months from getting out anyway, so I had to re-enlist.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of booted me and said, go do bigger and better things. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a snapshot of my military career. And then
Wow.
then I fell into the banking finance industry.
Mm-hmm.
Great time. Became a millionaire at 23 in that business just by
Wow.
dumb luck. And I, then I lost it all and was homeless for 2 years and built it back about 200 million out of the back of my car in Dunkin' Donuts a few years later. And then started
Wow.
running across the country and writing books and breaking records and doing all kinds of stuff, philanthropy work, giving back and doing whatever I can do. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view story.
That's incredible. So you gained your world record for athleticism after having all your organs torn and basically all your bones broken at one point.
Yeah, that's funny. You caught on to that. I've do a lot of interviews, a lot of TV, a lot of stuff, and no one ever puts those two together. I always kind of laugh. It's like that's really kind of the biggest part of it all is the fact that I'm not even. I mean, I have severe nerve damage in my right hand. I can't hold certain things with my right hand. I mean, I have a
Mm,
lot of blood pressure problems, a lot of
okay.
kidney problems. I mean, a lot of degenerative back disease, like all kinds of things that are still wrong. But the fact that I can still do these things is just is sometimes a little crazy to me.
That's impressive, first of all, and secondly, that really ties in well with our first pillar of Move Happy, which is about mindset, keeping a positive mindset. You know, if somebody tries to rob you and you've already broken all your bones and lacerated your organs, uh, going through the incredible things you've gone through, some horrific, I'm sure, some exciting and fun. Kind of like a roller coaster of emotions. If someone is, in the military or aspiring to do what you've done, maybe bits and pieces, you've done a lot. What are some tips or strategies you can share with them in keeping a positive mindset for those tough days?
I think for those that have served or that are going to serve, I think the military does a way better job of doing what I can try to explain. So, I mean, mission objective is key component, and I would say just about any branch. So, troop welfare comes secondary to mission objective. So, somebody asked me that question the other day, and I said it's really kind of a two-part answer. I mean, one, when I'm laying on the ground and dying, there's not an emotional thing. It's really just mission objective focus. It's just like you learned, when you're back with your unit is, I'm not concerned about how I feel right now. I'm concerned about getting to where I need to be in safety. So,
Mhm.
my objective was just staying alive, staying focused, staying
Yeah,
controlled, staying, keeping my head about me, and then getting to a position to where I could, get some help.
yeah.
Emotionally didn't play a part until I died the third time, and then I had my conversation with God. That's when it got a little bit more of an emotional side, because once the doctors and the nurses had a hold of me, then yeah, everything starts to kind of back up, and now it becomes a real fight. I think during that time, I was just laser focused on staying alive.
Mhm.
When you get to the hospital and you start to and people are around you a little bit, I think you kind of start to relax and then realize, like, oh no, I may not make it. So, but as far as like, those that want to join, or those that are going through anything tough, just to keep a positive mindset, I think it's almost impossible to always stay positive, right?
Mhm.
I think it goes into a couple different things, like Simon Sinek's version of know your why. So define your purpose and your reason. That's a good way to get through something. If you're a parent, I think that's a given. A lot of times, if you're a parent, it's always your children. And if you get into a position where you don't have those things, then self-care, self-love is pretty important. Maybe you like
Yeah.
yourself, you want to stay around, you want to push through. But if there's anything challenging, like going through the military, for me, it was a why. I did not want to go back home. So to become a Marine, it was a lot easier to be a Marine than it was to be home. So
Mm,
and I wrote a book briefly kind of talking about keep your feet moving. I mean, like if you've served, then that, one thing, if you stop, you're dead. So,
yeah.
you're always just keeping your foot, your feet moving and one foot in front of the other. I think it's just as long as you do that, one bite out of that elephant at a time. Don't try to take on everything at once and think you got to fix
Mhm.
everything today. Just little bitty chunks and just keep at it. That's how it works.
I love that. Great tips. Thank you for that. Second pillar of Move Happy is all about community. We know that our social health is one of our strongest predictors of our happiness, as well as on the other end of the spectrum. If we're not hanging out with the right people or not hanging out with anybody in general, for isolating, that we can, sometimes get depression or whatnot. What are some tip strategies you've learned, either in business or with the military experience, as far as like connecting with healthy people to be around?
I was probably the wrong person to ask that question. Um, I,
Let's be real.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not a big component of of that. I think maybe a better way to say that is you got to take a step back and like yourself and be in a position of strength versus position of weakness. So I think a lot of people get community driven and surround themselves with people to try to lift themselves up, not realizing that what ends up doing is they end up being one of the people they don't want to be, which by bringing people down. So I think
Mm,
first you have to have that kind of come to Jesus to yourself and get to know who you are,
mhm,
identify your strengths, put yourself in that spot first, and then start
mhm,
to establish your community around people based on what your objective. Again, if it's business, then surround yourself with people who are smarter and better at things than you. Be humble
mhm,
to that, learn, coach, and grow. If it's in the personal life, then find people that have, positivity based on the things that you feel should be positive, and kind of get in a position of strength first. I think a lot of people try to find that community, when they're down and depressed. And, look, you don't want it. So why would you want to pass it on to someone else? And I think that you got to learn to self-love. You got to take care of yourself first. Once you kind of have that taken care of, then I think
Hmm.
it's good to start to establish a good community. And at the same time, again, while I'm not a super fan of that, is when you're an overly ambitious driven person and you
Hmm.
have a burning desire, or you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a black hole to fill, if you want to get dark with it, or if you want to be, I just, you want to chase that high that you had in the military. It was just a phenomenal feeling. It's a good form of addiction.
Hmm.
It doesn't always have to be bad. And you do that, it's hard to surround yourself with people like that because those are few and far between, just like it was when you served. I mean, being a Marine is 0.001% of the population, and then being an infantry Marine, then being an operator. I mean, it's the percentages start to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So
Hmm.
it's challenging to find like-minded people like that. So you've got to, usually when we get out, we scatter. We're not all together. So more than likely, when we were in our units and we were together, a lot of us surrounded ourselves with the like-minded people with the same things. And then when we get out, we dissipate, and that's a challenge to find in the civilian sector if you have served in the military, because the civilian sector doesn't really think that way.
Hmm. You bring a lot of good points to the table. I mean, and thank you for sharing your opinion on that. I think it's incredible, not just in the military, but also in workplace. We find that people can build relationships with their coworkers, and then if they don't work there anymore, they kind of lose connection and whatnot. And I think that's a good point with the military too. So thank you for that. Third pillar of Move Happy is all about movement. It started as a program I designed in a psych hospital for my patients on a budget. So with that in mind, I know you have a couple records as an athlete. Are those your favorite that you like to do, or do you have new ones? Let's talk about your fitness.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, above and all and everything, I love being a dad to my daughter. So that's my number one.
Hmm.
I like doing that, whatever. And I think the fitness is just a portion of to keep me buying some time to stay with her a little longer as far as health's
Yeah.
concerned. You know, um, but as far as the athletic side, it's it was just something that just kind of started. I don't know. It's been a part of my life my whole life, but it's
Hmm.
just weird how, you know, things like a push-ups or running across America unify people. It's the craziest thing. You can go out and talk about mental health and 22 a day and being motivated, and nobody listens, but you go do 20,000 push-ups and all of a sudden everybody's paying attention. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's a hell of a hook. But for me personally, I mean, I love the challenge. I finished on Saturday, and it was pretty it was pretty brutal. And by Wednesday, I was already like, all right, we're going to do the second round again on Veterans Day, and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So it's again different form of positive addiction, but
Mhm.
I like it. I've enjoyed the push up one. It's definitely by far been one of the most challenging ones that I've done thus far. So it's been fun.
That's awesome. And it's low budget. I mean, you can literally do it anywhere. So,
Yeah, I mean, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he talks about the 1%, just finding that 1% of your time to be able to exercise throughout your day. I mean,
mhm.
it is. I mean, calisthenics. I mean, again, I always tell people, I'm like, look, the military is Marine Corps spent 277 years perfecting their leadership and style of what they're doing. They're, the largest, best dominating military branch in the history of time, right? I mean, it just is what it is. So all the things that they've taught you and put in place, perfect that. It's not that hard to apply out in the real world. Just getting a little exercise in, doing your squats, doing your jumping jacks, doing a light
Yeah.
little run, mowing the lawn. I mean, a lot of people don't even mow their own daggone lawn anymore. Go
Mhm.
out and mow the lawn, weed eat. I mean, just active rest is just as good as you start to get older.
Mhm. Absolutely. Love that. And what are you really pumped about that we can support you with here at Move Happy?
I don't know. I just came off a pretty big one. I mean, this campaign to support the National Purple Heart Auto Mission and this world record garnered
Mhm.
a substantial amount of attention this time around. I mean, I think it was already at 120 million impressions on the media worldwide so far, and it's kind of just taken off like wildfire. And though I didn't break the second record, it garnered a lot of great conversations and put a lot of validity to, what I'm able to do or what people perceive
Yeah,
that as.
definitely.
So, we've had some great talks about talking about a big project I'm here in Charlotte. So there's a lot of big banking, big banks here, big company, big mortgage companies. So we've
Hmm.
talked about partnering this year already on veterans,
Awesome.
start to build homes for disabled veterans and raising funds with the next round. So
That's
that's
awesome.
it's in the works, but that's our next goal.
I love that. So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way they can do that? On
Yes.
LinkedIn or?
Yes, ma'am. So all my social media handles are the same. It's at TShane Johnson. So whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, at TShane Johnson. Then of course I have my website at tshaneinspires.com.
Awesome. So everybody needs to connect with you on social media, go to your website. And last but not least, I always love to close out the show with a random question. So what is a secret talent that you have that not a lot of people know about?
I could do 16,500 push-ups in 12 hours.
But is it secret though? I feel like you were on TV about
was was up until about 5 days ago, it was a secret. Uh, yeah.
That's impressive. How
Yeah.
long did it take you to do that?
It took, yeah. So that's kind of a disappointing question. So this record, it was, um, it's a little frustrating because it's a hard thing to train for, and it's a hard thing to expect, like how to structure, because you got to realize you're doing 27 push-ups a minute for 12 hours. You got to calculate breaks, body tear down, food. There's a lot of things that we didn't take into account. We thought of them, but just didn't think they played a big role in it.
Yeah.
So I reviewed the notes this morning, was the first time I was able to kind of really start to look back at it again. We reviewed the notes this morning. I was 2,800 off with still 2 hours to go, which means I could have made it had I didn't do the two records consecutively, because the first one, was only, that first hour should have only been about 1,400, but I did 3,050 because of that first record. So I kind of burned myself out on that first set because we were at 10,000 at the halfway mark. So I was on pace to blow that thing out of the water.
Mhm.
It's basically, the gist of it is I did about 11 hours. It took me in about 23 push-ups a minute for
That's
11 hours.
incredible.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. And you're doing it again.
I am. Yeah, we're gonna focus on veterans. I've just been, my hands are still numb. I haven't been able to feel my hands for the last 5 days, and I couldn't feed myself, couldn't take a shit. It was pretty rough.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So I've just gotten to the point now where I mean, again, my hands are still messed up, but I can move my arms and kind of get moving a little bit. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That was amazing. And thank you for all the personal secret talent. Now we know if you do 16,000 push-ups, these are the things that might happen.
Right. I lost 12 pounds that day. I was joking. I said, I'm like,
Wow.
my new workout program, the TShane program, where it's just 12 hours of push-ups and you'll be down 12 pounds for the beach body.
No supplements needed.
Nothing. You don't even need to eat. You're good to go. Yeah.
I love it. Well, we'll definitely have to have a follow-up session down the road and see how your journey is going with everything. Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been awesome.
Yes, ma'am. My pleasure. Thank you.